Hey YouTube, happy 2010. It's a new year, and I think the Vikings should make some resolutions. Resolution 1. Brad Childress should stop being the most boring play caller alive. Resolution number 2. Brad Childress should not get mad when Favre audibles at the line. Good things happen when he does it. Resolution 3. Adrian Peterson should hold the ball the way Percy Harvin does after he meets first contact. And I meant to bring my football out here, but it's going to work without the football, okay? Adrian Peterson's got the football, tackler hits him, and he's like this. Fighting for extra yards, which is awesome. Not shying away from contact, which is awesome, but occasionally having the ball stripped out of his hands, which is 100% not awesome. Percy Harvin, on the other hand, gets hit, and the ball goes whoop, 2 hands into the chest, and he fights for extra yards, and he's rarely taken down with the first tackler, and he often gets extra yards, and is completely awesome in many ways that Adrian Peterson is also awesome, but he's fumbled the ball once, I think, so far, and touched it something like 110 times. So, I'm sure it's more complicated than that, but maybe it's not. So, there's a resolution. Resolution number 3. Jared Allen should get back to his mullet awesome self and start sacking the quarterback and wreaking more havoc in the backfield. It's not all his fault. He's been less productive lately. Pat Williams was out last week. Kevin Williams looked like he wasn't trying. And I'll get to the Bears game. And E.J. Henderson being out really does make it harder for the defensive line to do its job, in my opinion. So, there you have that. Other resolutions. Minnesota special teams should resolve not to play against Daniel Manning anymore. Yeah, that's not going to be a problem, but holy cow, that was bad news. And finally, just to make this simple, the Vikings should just resolve to win their games in 2010. They made a bad habit at the end of 2009, like many of us outside the football world do, and we start eating like crazy at Thanksgiving and through Christmas, and we feel bad because we got fat, and then we make New Year's resolutions to work out and eat healthy. Well, the Vikings got gluttonous and slothful and lost a bunch of games. So right now is the time for that to stop. They need to beat the Giants this week. And if they do, I'm going to be glued to the TV all afternoon because I'm going to be watching that Philadelphia game. Even if they don't win, I might watch that game anyway just because it looks like it's going to be a good game. But if the Vikings do win, it'll be especially interesting because the outcome of that game will determine where the Vikings are seated. And should the Eagles win, then I'm also going to be paying close attention to the Packers-Cardinals game, even though that shouldn't be interesting because I think they think they're going to be playing each other wild card weekend. It gets complicated. I'll get into that too. So quickly I want to touch on the Bears game and then on the Giants game coming up and what the other games mean if the Vikings win and what would then happen in the playoffs. So, the Bears. The Bears played their best game of the year against the Vikings, and teams have been making a habit of doing this. The Cardinals played their best game of the year against the Vikings. The Panthers did it, and now the Bears have done it. The special teams return yardage was bad news for the Vikings. The flat offense in the first half was bad news for the Vikings. The defense dropping a couple of easy Cutler interceptions was bad news for the Vikings. Fortunately, in the second half, they did come out, put together a nice offensive half, scored points, came back, tied it up. Chicago scored again to make it 30-23, and the Vikings answered with a fantastic end of the fourth quarter drive, culminating in a touchdown pass from Favre to Rice on 4th down with something like 16 seconds left. It was amazing. I was glad I hadn't gone to bed at that point, even though I felt like giving up at the game, on the game. And then we all know what happened in overtime. I don't get how you can lose the coin toss in overtime and then get the ball and still lose the game, let alone get the ball twice and still lose the game. Now, the second possession ended in that fumble, and the first Bears possession ended in that missed field goal, and it was just a weird, goofy game. Vikings lose. They're no longer in the driver's seat for the number 2 seed. It's still possible, but they need some help. So, I say put the Bears behind us. The Vikings have opportunities. let's just see them go out and get a win this week, and that's all they can do. Hopefully the other teams, will fall into place, and the Vikings will get that 2 seed. I'm not as worried about the Saints having a 1 seed because I'm just not. They look bad. But also teams are probably less worried about the Vikings now because they look bad. So who knows? The way I'm hoping they'll turn it around, maybe Saints fans are thinking that their team is going to turn it around, all of that. So the Vikings are hosting the Giants. The good thing about that is Brandon Jacobs is terrible this year. Don't know why, but he is no good. Their pass rush is missing, and they don't have anything to play for. They've looked pretty flat in games where they did have things to play for, and so I'm just hoping that they'll lay down and die if the Vikings get an early lead on them, and Minnesota needs to do its part and do that. But who knows, maybe the Giants will have their best game of the year against the Vikings like so many other teams are doing. So the Vikings need to be focused and play hard in order to win this game. I say they play on this week, they have a shot at taking next week off. If they take this week off, like they've been showing they are sometimes doing in the regular season, then they're going to have to host a wild card team and then go on the road if they win in the playoffs, which is terrible. So Eli Manning is quietly putting together a nice statistical year. I don't think he misses Plaxico Burress, and he's a little dangerous. So we'll see what happens. I'd love for the Vikings to look like they looked in the second half against the Bears and to play better defensively and much better special teams-idly and get some momentum going into the playoffs. Okay, should they win, then if the Eagles win, they're the 2 seed against the Cowboys. If they lose, the Vikings are the 2 seed. If the Eagles win, then the result of the Packers-Cardinals game determines whether the Vikings are 3 and 4. I think the Packers have to lose to be the 5 seed, and the Cardinals stay the 4, and the Cowboys get the 2. No, Minnesota's 4. I know what it is. Okay, if the Packers lose and the Eagles win and the Vikings lose, I'm trying to keep all this straight in my head. I should have written it down. And the Vikings are the 4 seed, the Cardinals are the 3 seed, the Cowboys are the 2 seed, and the Packers are the 5 seed, and the Eagles are the 6, which means that the Packers would come to Minnesota for the for Wild Card Weekend, which would be pretty crazy and insane and a lot of fun. Even better than that, the Vikings hopefully will get the 2 seed by winning and having the Eagles lose. If that happens, then the Packers-Cardinals game doesn't matter to Vikings fans at all. Because those 3 games affect the outcome, there are 8 different possibilities as to what could happen. The Vikings could be the 2 through the 5 seed. 2, 3, or 4. They won their division. They can't be lower than 4. So, obviously 2 gets the first week off in the playoffs. That's much preferential. Also, they get to host any team seeded lower than 2, if that's who they play. Obviously, a championship game could be in New Orleans against the number 1 Saints, or it could be hosting some other team if the Saints lose. Any other team if the Saints lose, and the Vikings make it that far. If they're 3 or 4 seed, they have to play the first week. If they're 3, they host 6. If they're 4, they host 5. And that could be anyone. It could be Packers, Cardinals, Cowboys, or Eagles. I hope it's not the Eagles, because they are just a super dangerous team, especially for the Vikings. The matchups don't work well, and Brad Childress gets intimidated by Andy Reid, and it's just bad news. So I hope the Vikings are the 2 seed. If they're not, I hope they play anyone else but the Eagles, and that somebody knocks off the Eagles before Minnesota has to play them. Other than that, anything goes. I'm okay with the Vikings playing any other team in the playoffs. I think they can handle all the teams in the playoffs. The matchups work okay, and the Vikings have the talent to do it as long as they play like they played earlier in the season. That's about it. Thanks for watching. Happy New Year, and we'll see you later.